Parable of the Mustard Seed Bible Story for Children. The parable of the mustard seed is a simple, yet powerful story that Jesus told to help people understand the kingdom of God. It's a wonderful story to teach children because it speaks about growth, faith, and how small things can become great through God's power. Let's dive into this parable and learn how it can inspire children to have faith, patience, and trust in God's work. Introduction to the parable of the mustard seed. In the Bible, Jesus often used parable short, simple stories to teach important spiritual lessons. Parables were a way for Jesus to connect with people, using everyday situations and objects to illustrate bigger truths about God's kingdom. The parable of the mustard seed is one of these parables, and it is found in 3 of the 4 Gospels: Matthew 13 to 31-32, Mark 4 to 30-32, and Luke 13 to 18-19. Story of the mustard seed. In this parable, Jesus compares the kingdom of heaven to a mustard seed. Mustard seeds are known for being incredibly small, one of the tiniest seeds you can find. However, despite its tiny size, when planted and given time to grow, it can become a huge tree-like plant, providing shade and shelter for birds. Jesus used this surprising growth of the mustard seed to explain a deep and encouraging truth about faith and God's kingdom, retelling the parable for kids. To make the story of the mustard seed relatable for children, here is a simplified retelling. Once, Jesus gathered his disciples and some people who wanted to learn from him. He asked them, "What is the kingdom of heaven like? What shall I compare it to?" Jesus looked at a tiny mustard seed, held it up for everyone to see, and said, "The kingdom of heaven is like this mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, when it grows, it becomes the largest of garden plants and even becomes a tree. Birds come and make nests in its branches." The people were amazed. They saw how something so small could grow into something big and strong. Key themes and lessons for children. The parable of the mustard seed contains several important lessons for kids. Let's explore these themes to help children understand how this story can apply to their lives. 1. Small things can have big impacts. Even though a mustard seed is tiny, it has the potential to grow into something large. Similarly, small acts of kindness, faith, or obedience can have a big impact over time. God can use small things to accomplish great things. Kids can make a difference, even with small actions. 2. Faith grows like a seed. Jesus compares faith to a mustard seed, showing that even a little bit of faith can grow if nurtured. When we trust God, pray, and seek to follow Him, our faith becomes stronger and grows, like the mustard plant. Just like planting a seed requires patience and care, faith needs to be nurtured over time. 3. God's kingdom starts small but grows wonderfully. Jesus used this parable to explain that God's kingdom started small, with just a few believers, but it would grow to reach the entire world. God's kingdom is still growing today, as people all over the world come to know and follow Him. This growth shows that God can turn small beginnings into something wonderful and expansive. 4. Having patience with God's timing. Seeds take time to grow, and so do God's plans. The mustard plant didn't grow into a tree overnight. Kids can learn to trust God's timing and know that even if they don't see the results immediately, God is working in their lives. Waiting can be hard, but it's a reminder to have patience, and believe that God's plans are always good. Practical applications for children. Understanding the parable is just the first step. Here are some ways children can apply the lessons from the parable of the mustard seed in their everyday lives. 1. Plant a seed to grow your faith. Try planting a real seed, like a small flower or vegetable seed, and watch it grow over time. Each day, children can water it, and see how the little seed begins to grow, just like their faith. As they care for the plant, they can be reminded to nurture their relationship with God, by praying and reading the Bible. 2. Start small with kindness and love. Encourage children to show kindness in small ways, like sharing their toys, helping a friend, or saying kind words. Remind them that even the smallest acts of kindness are noticed by God, and can grow into something beautiful, making a positive impact. 3. Pray for growth in faith. Children can pray for God to help their faith grow, no matter how small it may seem now. Explain that prayer is like watering a plant. It helps their faith grow stronger every day. Bible verses to remember, including Bible verses in the lesson, can reinforce the teaching and help children remember the story better. Here are some key verses related to the parable of the mustard seed. Matthew 13-31-32, "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants, and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches." Mark 4-30-32, Jesus said, "What shall we say, the kingdom of God is like? Or what parable shall we use to describe it? It is like a mustard seed, which is the smallest of all seeds on earth, yet when planted, it grows and becomes the largest of all garden plants, with such big branches, that the birds can perch in its shade." Summary of key points: the mustard seed is very small, but it can grow into a large plant just like faith in God's kingdom. Faith can start small but grows when we trust and follow God. Patience is important, as seeds and faith both require time to grow. Small actions matter. God can use even the tiniest acts of kindness, or faith for His purposes. Conclusion: the power of a small seed. The parable of the mustard seed is a wonderful way for children to understand that God can take even the smallest things like a tiny mustard seed, or a small act of faith, and grow them into something amazing. Through this story, kids can learn that they are never too young, or too small to make a difference. By nurturing their faith, praying, and trusting God's timing, they can be part of God's growing kingdom.